will pass to my colleague, Lysandra.
Good morning, Lysandra Jackson. I am the Chief of Emergency Services, and I will pass it off to Carolyn.
Good afternoon. My name is Caroline Buru, and I am the Emergency Services Manager, MOHS.
Thank you. And again, if you could just put your name and your organization in the chat, it's great to see you all who are joining. And for anybody watching the recording later, we appreciate your time and your interest in the winter shelter staffing request for proposal process. And I see someone in there. And actually, good afternoon. We're just getting started. I'm going to, just so you know, there we go. Okay, I'm just going to mute folks as they enter. Thank you. So we're just getting started. I'm going to share my screen, and again, these materials will be posted. So this is as a reminder, a bidders conference for the city fiscal year 2027 winter shelter staffing request for proposal. This is a funding opportunity that is available right now with a deadline of Monday, August 31st, 2026. That's in 2 weeks from today. So again, we're going to be recording and posting these materials on our website. We'll have time for questions at the end. You're also welcome to put any questions as we go in the chat. We are able to also answer questions after, of course. You have the email here on this slide, but it's also on our website. If you have any questions about the application or the scope, please feel free to send it our way at any time. We're going to do an overview of our office and the funding timeline and scope, including the scope of work for this opportunity, how to apply, and then how we'll be making decisions. And then we'll have a chance for any questions that you may have. All right, first a background of our office. If you haven't worked with us before, we're again the Mayor's Office of Homeless Services. So our mission is to make homelessness rare, brief, and non-recurring by responding to the urgent housing crisis in Baltimore City. We manage over 75 million annually in a variety of different funding sources. So we have federal funding, state funding, local funding, for our various programs. Many of our funding opportunities and our programs go to local nonprofits or providers to deliver those programs and services. We also offer, in addition to permanent housing and temporary housing programs, we fund and provide emergency shelter services and outreach services as well. We are a part of and the lead or the collaborative applicant lead entity for the continuum of care. And the COC is a group of local stakeholders and organizations that coordinate resources and carry out responsibilities with the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development funding. Now, this opportunity is not funded by federal COC funds, but sharing this just as context because we do lean on partially our resource allocation committee to help with reviews, but also because it's just part of the broader context of how we operate, how we work, and some of the coordinations and systems that we're a part of. So again, this particular RFP is for winter shelter staffing services. So in short, we are looking for an organization, it can be a nonprofit or a private organization, to provide winter shelter contracting staffing. So I'll get into that scope in just a moment, but that's the gist of it. There's about an estimated $600,000 to $700,000 available for this contract, and the contract term would be starting October 1st through end of April of next year. So the RFP was released last Wednesday. We're hosting this bidder conference now. The application, as a reminder, is 5 p.m. 2 weeks from now. Everything is being sent via email. As soon as applications are in, we will be reviewing the submissions, making sure they meet minimum requirements. And then as soon as we can get out these conditional awards, we recognize that the start term of this grant is not too far away. So we're going to work quickly with the selected provider to get up and running and be ready to provide those staffing services for winter shelter. All right, so we're going to talk about the scope now of what this RFP is to support. So as you may know, one of MOHS's responsibilities is to provide winter shelter during the winter season from November to March. And this is tied back to partially to city-wide weather declarations, emergency declarations. I'm not going to go too much into what those are, but there is a winter shelter and Code Purple plan that you can look at from the previous fiscal year that should give you a good idea of how winter shelter works, because the staffing services that we're looking for through this RFP are really critical piece of our ability to provide emergency response during this time period. So when there's emergency weather declaration, that'll be code blue or code purple, MOHS activates additional emergency shelter spaces during this time. That means that anybody who is experiencing homelessness and wants shelter during this time can have shelter. And as you'll remember, last year's winter was a really intensive season, and that meant activating a lot of emergency additional winter shelter sites. So this RFP in particular is seeking an organization that will provide those staffing services for the additional winter shelter spaces that are activated during the winter shelter season. These locations operate they're overnight, of course, overnight shelters. They operate from 4 to 9, 4 p.m. to 9 a.m. the next morning. And when there's code purple, so that's the most intensive like winter declaration, they are required to be operational 24/7 through the end of that declaration period. And this is called sheltering in place. So the staffing, generally what we're looking for is staff for these additional emergency winter shelter sites that are qualified, trained, compassionate, and are able to manage those shelter operations, meal services, coordinating transportation, and providing supportive services to people experiencing homelessness and seeking emergency winter shelter. This is surge staffing. So the weather, unpredictable. When a emergency weather declaration is activated, the expectation is that this provider is able to activate within 8 hours of that declaration and up to 35 staff. So again, this is it will be short notice, but this is kind of the expectation and how the staffing services need to be designed. These will also be, in many cases, overnight, not every position, but overnight staffing. There might be, like as we did last emergency winter shelter season, there might be several days of 24/7 support. So depending on what the weather does, the staffing requirements might be a day here, a day there, or potentially up to a week and a half, maybe even more of 24/7 additional staffing support. The key roles are lead residential monitors and residential monitors. So they're ensuring that the operation of the emergency shelter site is adhering to requirements and policies. Intake specialists to work with clients entering emergency shelter. Custodial staff, keeping places clean, supervisors, and floaters. It's kind of an all hands on deck situation at times in the additional winter shelter sites. So having additional staff to just fill in the gaps, address resident needs, work with um, the site operation managers, facility managers is really important. And of course, even though this is surge support, the goal is to have a kind of cohort of potential staff that can come and provide the support that have received the appropriate training. So that's part of what we ask as well, is that staff are trained in how to work with clients in crisis. They would be trained on on the respective protocols and policies related to emergency winter shelter. Other key components of the scope of work is coordination reporting. So this is the staff, not only the staffing provider like the administration as a whole, but also the staff themselves that provide this surge support will have intensive coordination with MOHS. And that is on a variety of things, including, when to activate, what the expectations are around activation, tracking, doing client data tracking, occupancy tracking, providing timely reports of any incidents, and then collaborating with the many other services providers or organizations that collectively ensure that clients are safe during this emergency declaration. A key part is ensuring that the additional emergency shelter sites are operating under health and safety standard requirements. The staff also will be assigning and tracking people who are arriving to bedrooms, helping with them with their storage, making sure they have linens, reporting back to MOHS on occupancy. They are ensuring that the rooms, the bathrooms, common areas are clean, have the supplies that people need to be safe and comfortable. Generally, just ensuring client safety, comfort, and privacy, and implementing safety procedures. This might be visitor policies, crisis management, overdose response, infectious disease protocols, or other severe weather procedures. During this emergency winter shelter operation, it's also expected that staff work with residents or clients that come in seeking emergency shelter to provide services and referrals that they may be in need of, such as housing navigation, health and wellness services, life skills training. Staff are also ensuring that there's the proper supplies. So this might be blankets, cots, pillows, sheets. Food and water needs to be provided to clients during this time. And transportation needs. The city has kind of a transportation provider, but in addition to the transportation shuttle that it currently exists in emergency winter shelter, there's additional transportation needs that are required when there's an emergency winter declaration. I'm going to move now to what the application requirements are and how to submit. So again, the deadline is 2 weeks from now, and it's all sent via email to the MOHS email that I mentioned previously. There are, the bulk of it is a cover page and proposal narrative. I'll share what needs to be in that and a budget. We also ask that you sign and return a conflict of interest questionnaire and an equal access agreement. And that is, I think it's the last 2 attachments in the RFP. So you just can, print those out and sign it and send it back. We also request a set of supplemental documents. For example, proof of good standing with the state of Maryland. You need to have a UEI and registration with sam.gov. We review single audits or audited financial statements. And if it's a nonprofit, we ask for a proof of charitable status registration. So the narrative, there's not a specific template. So this is just the outline. You can use this to create your response. But first, ask for just a quick cover sheet with key contact information for the authorized representative of the submission, a company profile or organization profile with a brief overview of your organization and the history providing these types of services, qualifications and experience of staff who will be responsible for providing this service, a detailed plan for meeting the scope of work, references from other clients that you have worked with before to provide similar service needs, a safety plan, proof of insurance, and any other information that you believe is critical to share your organization's qualifications for this proposal. Again, businesses and nonprofits can both apply, but just need to be in good standing with the state of Maryland. We also request the full list of the supplemental documents is in the RFP, but we ask for an organizational chart, list of board of directors. We have financial statements, UEI, and SAM.gov registration proof. We request single audits. Your organization may not be subject to that requirement. So if you don't have a single audit, if there is audited financial statements, you can send those as well or instead. This funding opportunity meets local hiring requirements. So again, you can see more details on the RFP, but there are local hiring requirements since this is over $300,000. I talked a little bit about the single audit pieces and insurance requirements. That's also listed out in more detail in the RFP. And record keeping and retention is really critical. Most of the information needs to be retained for 5 years. That varies a little bit. Again, a little more information in the RFP, but that's one expectation. So the applications are due 2 weeks from now. We will do we can't accept late applications. We will review applications that are submitted, and if there's something missing, we will go back and ask for completion of that submission of that document. This isn't necessarily, if the application doesn't seem thorough enough, it's, if you're missing a document that's supposed to be submitted and it's not. We will review to make sure that the proposal fits under the scope of work here and that your organization meets the requirements, again, such as being in good standing with the state of Maryland. And we also do a financial risk assessment before making any awards. Projects will be scored. I'll get to that in just a second here. And then the final step is what we call the clearance agreement process, which is essentially we do conditional awards, and then we work with a provider to finalize a scope of work and a contract and ensure that the submitted budget is accurate and meets all eligibility requirements. So 20% of the total score for each applicant will be based on experience and qualifications. 30% is based on the proposed plan and how it aligns with service quality and compliance. So we want to see that there is a strong plan in place to meet the needs of people experiencing homelessness, whether that's individuals or families, that there's a realistic plan to provide that surge staffing quickly and sufficiently to make sure that we're ready for 24/7 operations at a moment's notice if the emergency winter shelter is declared. And of course, making sure that the plan speaks to the ability to ensure resident and staff safety during extreme weather. 20% will be based on cost and the effectiveness and quality of the budget. and then 30% also based on some of those references and performance. And again, the deadline is Monday, August 31st at 5 p.m. And that is my last slide. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and then open it up for any questions that you all might have. And I don't see anything in the chat, so I will give folks a chance to unmute. So I see in the chat 2 questions, range of dollar amounts we can ask for. There is a 600, we estimate that 600 to 700,000 will be available for this RFP. We are not planning to make multiple awards. We're looking for one provider. I see, Nick, your hand is up. Feel free to unmute.
Yeah, so the question I had looking at some of the presentation slides earlier, it talked about, it would be our job to provide like the cost of, pillows, sheets, blankets, food. I'm assuming cots was in there. I can't remember each specific detail, but the actual shelter itself, the brick and mortar, is that something that's already established through the city of Baltimore? Like it's a recreation center or a school that's closed due to the temperatures that we'll be utilizing that space. We won't have to supply the space, correct? That's
Don't
already
have to
there.
supply the space, exactly. So
Gotcha.
great question. I will get back to you and everybody about this. So what I'm also, confirming that it's the space is provided, but also if the space is already provided, what is the general cost of those additional items?
Okay, exactly.
Got it.
And do all the spaces, are they all provided with, I mean, you go into like certain parochial schools and there's like a kitchen in there that we can utilize and stuff like that. Do all the shelters have that, or is it a little bit more basic or a combination thereof?
Great question. I will add that on to what we're going to put into the FAQ.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I'm wondering, maybe not a question, but maybe, but for the food service, will there be a food vendor, separate from the staffing contract?
Yes, I think there's also an additional food vendor. So part of this would be coordination with the existing food vendor, but I don't think that that covers 100% of the
Okay.
food. So we'll add that too to the FAQ just to outline that a little bit more. And I don't see any other questions in the chat. I do see somebody typing, so I'm going to give it a little longer just in case.
While they're typing the presentation slides for this, we can find that again. Are they in the original email if we click like on a link, or?
They will be uploaded to our website. So they're not up yet, but they will be, and alongside this recording.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm. We haven't sent them out yet, so. See anything. Okay. I will stay on for 5 more minutes in case there's any more questions. But if there aren't, then that concludes our presentation. We will send out this information. Appreciate everybody's interest and attendance again. And yeah, thank you. Just feel free to reach out with any other questions.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Hi, I was typing and then I stopped typing.